From UFOs to psychic powers and government conspiracies, history is riddled with unexplained events. You can turn back now or learn the stuff they don't want you to know. The American forces knew that they could learn more about the Soviet sonar system and the ways that Soviet subs were able to often avoid detection from other navies. This is on the level of Pakistan stealing the stealth helicopter in the Osama bin Laden raid and then selling it to someone else who very much wanted to learn the mechanisms of the magic tricks. So the U.S. starts weighing pros and cons. This is very much a Dr. Strangelove situation. And they were like, we're going to learn more than ever about these Soviet subs. They're very dangerous because, like we said, they can move around undetected. They can carry nuclear weapons, so we could have nukes popping off the coast of California. So now we can know how to stop them. Con, this is an act of piracy. This could trigger World War III. Okay, everybody in the room has dealt with that. And even if we're not caught, this might get kind of expensive. It might be pricey. But we know the K129 is definitely there. All we have to do is figure out how to snag it without getting busted. So ultimately, whatever the minutia of their conversation was, they decided, quote, fuck it, hold my beer. Let's go get this sub. And that's a verbatim quote, right? From Kissinger.
Well, I mean,
sounds like him.
Those are some foul-mouthed bureaucrats there in Washington. They don't mince words, let me tell you.
And so in utter secrecy, by the way, no one knows about this except for a very small group of people. The company begins working on something they call Project Azorian. No one has ever at this point accomplished something like this before, much less in a top secret manner. So they have to get the CIA involved, right? And they have to have CIA level secrecy. They thought of all kinds of weird stuff before they ultimately landed on their plan. And just so the plan doesn't sound too crazy, I think maybe, Noel, we need to talk a little bit about their other ideas.
Yeah, they had some doozies, like making a gigantic gas bubble large enough to lift the entire sub to the surface, at which point they could then, retrieve it.
So like fart power?
Yeah, man. I don't know. It just sounds, to me, it sounds like magic, like something you'd see in a Disney movie when some ancient treasure is like levitated using, ocean magic or whatever. I don't understand how that would work. Maybe there's maybe it's a thing. It certainly seems pretty pie in the sky. And they laundry listed a bunch of other bonkers ideas before they landed on the least bonkers-ish idea, which is, building a giant mechanical claw. Who doesn't love a giant mechanical claw, Ben? Is this like sort of like what, like a claw machine, one of those rigged claw machines you'd see in an arcade, but like, scaled?
Pretty much exactly. Whatever other ideas they went through, at some point they said, why don't we just sort of build a claw and yoink this submarine to the surface? That was their idea. It's exactly like one of those hanging claw games that are, in my opinion, rigged too. So Nixon approves this plan sometime in the early 70s. And the timeline's important because the ocean is a hungry hippo, or a hungry place. It eats man-made things. It degrades them very quickly. It degrades them. And there's a clock ticking. So this means with each passing year, the integrity of that submarine is degrading. The stakes are impossibly high. They're trying to steal an entire submarine, and they have to build the technology to do it because the technology to do this doesn't exist yet. Furthermore, and I thought you would really enjoy this part, they need a plausible cover story to explain why a U.S. ship is out diddling around in the middle of nautical nowhere. They needed help. Luckily, they had some powerful friends, so they contact, get this, eccentric billionaire real life Tony Stark of the time, Howard Hughes. And they say, hey, Howie, can you do us a solid here? Can you tell everybody in America and therefore the world that like you're doing this?
Yeah, hand washing enthusiast Howard Hughes, mason jar urinator,
Hater
Howard
of
Hughes.
nail clippers. But he already had an established relationship with the U.S. government. You can't be a billionaire in the United States and not already have a deep relationship with the government. Call me cynical, but don't
You're
forget
cynical, Ben.
that's absolutely realistic. We don't make the rules because we are not billionaires. But here's what he did. He went to the public. He said, okay, I'll do this for you, CIA. And you'll just owe me a favor in the future. He went to the public and he made this weird declaration. He said, oh, America, I'm going to start mining the bottom of the ocean floor for manganese nodules. They're little mineral-rich rock collections that are found on the floor of the ocean. And the thing is, everybody believed him. They bought it hook, line, subclaw, and sinker. Howard Hughes was already, we have to remember, very well known, dare I say infamous, for saying very wild stuff. Like I said Tony Stark earlier, but think of Ye, think of Kanye West. He's like Ye and Elon Musk and Tony Stark combined.
I refuse to call him Ye. I won't do it. I just won't do it.
Okay, well, you gotta, I guess, man's got to have a code. I just go with Ye because that's what he wants to be called. Like if you, in all fairness, if you or Matt or Mission Control said, I want to go by a crazy name, I would back it up. If you texted me one morning and you're like, Ben, a lot of stuff happened last night. I'm going by Snakebite from now on.
You giving me?
Are you sure? And if you're sure, then I got your back.
You giving me a lot to think about, Ben. But yeah, it's definitely true. It's definitely a fair comparison. So, he's the perfect kind of subterfuge for all this middle of nowhere nautical diddling that you described earlier, Ben. He launched a company, or at least the lion's share of the actual work building this vessel came from a group called the Global Marine Development Inc. I'm sorry, that was a real company. It had nothing to do with Hughes. The company was given the job of building this vessel called the Hughes Glomar Explorer. What's a Glomar? That sounds like some sort of. It makes me think of like luminous rocks and like Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. What is a Glomar?
Yeah, Glomar is. I wish it were. I wish it was based on what you were describing, but instead it's just sort of a portmanteau of global marine. Glomar.
Of course, like Globochem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Glomar, the Hughes Glomar Explorer, is weird because remember how he said the halibut feels like sort of a pedestrian name for a powerful submarine. It's something you could underestimate. That's what they want to do with the Glomar Explorer. It's built to look like kind of average for a state-of-the-art system. It's supposed to look like a mining vessel while secretly being a submarine retrieval vessel. And this made me think of, do you remember those old Mask toys? You know what I'm talking about?
They Mask like the Future Cops?
Oh, well, they looked like they were sold as like these vehicles that would look like regular toys. If you just search Mask
No, yeah, that's what I'm saying. But they were sort of like cops. They were sort of like, well, no, there's also a cartoon in that same era called Cops that was like an acronym, and they were like future weird cyber cops. But if I'm not mistaken, Mask was some sort of paramilitary crime fighting force, and it was very Transformers adjacent. It was kind of like faux Transformers, right?
Yeah. This was the era of those 80s, 90s toys that were all weirdly militarized. You had cops, you had and they all had like acronyms sometimes. There was G.I. Joe, of course, which is much older, and Mask. So look up Mask toys if you want to get a sense of the idea of this subterfuge. Man, I wish I still had those. Well, let's talk about this Glomar thing. So it set sail in June of 1974, and it carries this claw that has two names. Its official name, or this series of claws, their official name is Capture Vehicle But the crew and the project officials, yeah, I can see, they call it Clementine.
I would have called it maybe Dr. Claw for sticking with like that Saturday morning cartoon theme.
Yeah, we're just funnier though.
Clementine's
we're just better
cute.
at naming stuff.
Clementine's cute though. It's a cute name for a big scary claw. So I get it. I get it.
Yeah, and here's their idea. So just as Kissinger and Laird and Nixon had decided, this series of claws, this claw mechanism would dive down and it would pick up the sub and it would take it into what's called a moon pool. This is a submerged area within the Glomar that would allow them to just bring the sub directly inside the vessel. And the entire thing would take place underwater, so you couldn't see what was happening from, say, a satellite or a spy plane. And they would use something that oil drilling rigs will do. It's a technique or a thing called a pipe string. So you've got a bunch of segments of long pipe. In this case, they're made out of something called maraging steel, maraging, and that'll be important later. So you take these pipes, you would attach these like claw segments to the very end, you would feed them down this hole in the center of the ship, and then you would attach another length of pipe, and then another, and another, and another, until you got down to where the ship was. You would clamp on, like, Clementine claw the sub, and then you would pull it up, and as you would pull it up, you would disassemble these sections of the pipe. It's pretty ingenious. It's a cool idea. It's called Project Azorian.
Hey, we got there. We got there.
Took a second.
Can I add just really quickly another name for a moon pool? I love the moon pool idea. Is a wet porch.
Wet porch?
A wet porch.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. So wet porch, the mud room of the sea.
100%.
Yeah. So this operation, Azorian, starts in 1974, July 4th. It takes a little over a month. And to this day, a lot of it is still classified. So we don't know a ton about this heist, about the details. But we do know, and as fellow cinephiles, I thought, Noel, you and Paul would really enjoy this. This feels cinematic to me. During this project, during this month-plus project, 2 Soviet ships actually happen across the Glomar. They visit it, and they don't know that their missing submarine, which has been missing for years now, is right under their nose. Or do they? Because after the Soviet Union falls, the public learns that Soviet intelligence officials had received a tip-off. Someone, probably on the U.S. side, had leaked the information out of the boat of secrecy and said, hey, there's a salvage operation going on you guys might be interested in. But this might have been dismissed as noise or just rumors or even like false intel, because everybody up to this point had thought that it was impossible to get a sub from these depths. Whatever the case may be, however much the Soviets knew, the operation did meet a speed bump, a sub bump. Because for the people who thought it was impossible to do this, on the Soviet side, kind of turns out they were right.
Yeah, according to some eyewitnesses that were interviewed later, several of the claws fractured after they grabbed the K-129, meaning that the sub itself was actually all banged up. About 2/3 of it fell back into the sea. So they didn't even get the whole thing. Experts believe that the claws may have broken because of the steel they were made from. What was that steel called? Adamantium? No, it wasn't that one.
Maraging steel.
Maraging steel. Okay, I don't know. Something about maraging just doesn't fill me with confidence. I don't know why. I should have gone with like a more sci-fi grade steel. But there's a reason. Maraging steel. It is strong, but it's not super flexible and ductile. So therefore, if its weight is exceeded or if it's strained too much at certain
or like
points,
currents.
Yep,
yeah,
it just it breaks.
Yeah, so they end up with about 1/3 of the sub, and this is for a day-to-day life comparison. Something like this has happened to a lot of people in the audience today. Imagine you're slicing a cake and you've got that little triangle cake thing, and you lift an extra big slice of cake, and then part of it starts to fall, and boom! I'm thinking of cakes because even though the spelling is different, marriaging steel makes you think of weddings. So this third of the sub that they do get, it's about 12 meters long, a little bit less than 40 feet here in the U.S. It's believed that this part did actually contain what the U.S. and the CIA were looking for: nuclear weapons and maybe some Soviet code books.
And, this is maybe obvious, but I just wanted to backtrack a little bit to what you said earlier. I mean, the U.S. is doing this under the nose of the Soviets. The Soviets have declared this ship lost, and they're, for all intents and purposes, not looking for it anymore. So if they had any inkling that the U.S. was anywhere close to finding any of their secret codes or what have you, they would just change them all, right? I mean, it would be a lost cause. So it was very crucial that the level of secrecy remain, hence all the, cloak and dagger and cover story and Howard Hughes of it all, right?